Hi there and welcome back to Japan, where we're going to start our listen through to Brand New Made by BAND-MAID. And I know what you're thinking, why are you starting at track number 2? Now the reason for that is because obviously we've done a lot of BAND-MAID reviews before this on this channel, and actually of the 8 tracks on this album we've already reviewed 5, meaning that I've only got 3 to do. Now obviously before I do my usual album conclusion at the end in a separate video, I will go back and listen through it all again, but we've already heard the first track, the Non-Fiction Days, so we're going straight on to the second one. Now before I get into this, I just wanted to have a little bit of information to set the scene, whether you're a fan of the band or not, which is the fact that we have now listened to, we're going through in chronological order at this point, although we've already heard World Domination, the most recent full album. The thing is though, we started with Made in Japan, which I know is not all of the fans' favourite BAND-MAID album, because it kind of has a bit of a mixture of styles. It's a little bit more poppy. It's like they were trying to establish what they wanted to be at that point. And then the second album, New Beginning, they got a lot of albums about being new, haven't they? Brand New Made, New Beginning. Anyway, the second album kind of established a slightly more rock feel. It was like they'd cemented what they wanted to do, and from what you guys have told me, the fans who fantastically led me through this journey, Thrill was one of those songs where it just suddenly took off, and that was when the band said, okay, we want to do this more rocky thing. Now, the interesting thing is, I don't know a huge amount about these albums. Like I say, I like to let you guys, the fans, lead me through and tell me all the information, and I just react generally from what I give as a musical opinion. What I do know about this album, though, is I believe this is another one which was written for them. This is before they took over their own songwriting duties. But I do know that this album only had about a 6-month turnover from the one before. Now, that's quite interesting. That's very quick, and obviously shows that they really wanted to cement this sound quickly. And as I say, I've already heard 5 songs from this album, and I do know that although this is a band where I haven't really been disappointed by any of their songs, the 5 songs I've heard from here, none of them are my favourites. This is not an album where I would say, having already heard half of it in the wrong order, not one where I go, yeah, I'm really thinking this is going to be one that I really like. Although the first 2 albums that I've heard from them, in chronological order of course, I really like as a best part. So, like I say, I will give an overall conclusion at the end. I'm going to stop waffling now and get into this song, but I will give an overall conclusion at the end where I'll listen through the entire album again and then basically just give my opinions to you guys. But I get the feeling this album may be a little bit more rushed. We're interested to see how this goes. And of course, as always, give your opinions, because it's really interesting to see what you guys think. This is all subjective. After all, it's music. Yay! Anyway, enough waffling. We're going to get into this. This song is called... can't see the title. You already know what it is. You clicked on the link. Anyway, here we go. Fun intro. They're really sticking to that riff at the moment, although they're sort of... Oh, there we go. They're building up so much around that riff though. I'm really looking forward to the payoff though. I guess it's a fairly standard sort of album track chorus, but pretty good. Anyway, let's see. Do they mess it up in the second verse as they usually do with their really cool little changes? I gotta admit, that riff it's not like it doesn't keep you much. It's actually more the way they're playing it that makes it interesting. The little arrangement, the musicianship flourishes that make it interesting. Because the riff itself is actually a little bit dull. That injected some life in. I really love the way that was written back in, from the big change back into what it was before. Look at me, baby, look at me, baby. Look at me, baby, look at me, baby. Nice change in the chord pattern there. Look at me, baby. And I'm going to stop it at the end. There we go. You should stop it at the end. That's a good place to stop music. Or you could play it again. So there's a lot of things to unpack about this one. It is one of those songs that I would say, and you do get this sometimes, where at first it doesn't grab you so much, but then the second half really saves it. Now, the interesting thing is, I think for a lot of perhaps the more rock-oriented fans of BAND-MAID, and I do say that in all fairness, because I think this is a band that appeals not just to your normal sort of hardcore rock fans, but to more of a wider audience. I would say that a lot of them probably would really, really love the intro and say, oh yeah, really good sort of rocking, 4-on-the-floor kick drums, boom, boom, boom. You got your guitars going. But I'll be honest with you, I've kind of found that riff a little bit boring, as I said later. I didn't say it straight away because I wasn't 100% sure whether I was going to feel that way or whether it was going to build up. But the riff was actually quite dull. And that's what was really worrying me at first and what was completely negated by the end. Because, like I say, they really based a lot of the first half of the song around that riff, And that probably harks a little bit to, like I say, the success they got from the previous album was from the song Thrill, which was a very riff-based song. Well, I know maybe some people wouldn't consider that a riff, but it had that sort of core looping bit going around that they based, most of the song around. And so I can see why they are trying to rekindle that a little bit of some of the songs on this album. However, this one, like I say, the riff for me didn't really do anything. It was too generic to really sort of push through. What did work though is the way they were playing it. Misa's bass work. This was not the most sort of standout performance from McCartney on the drums, but it was still really interesting. The guitar, as you guys know, sometimes I'm a little bit biased against guitars because there's so many guitar bands that I think it's really hard to stand out in doing rock on guitar. Even if you're fantastic, it's kind of like we heard it all before, but I did really love the guitar touches here, and that solo was fantastic. And mainly the solo, as well as being brilliant and brilliantly played, it benefited from the arrangement. Now, the arrangement really kicked off in the solo, and that's where the song started to take on life for me, because the chorus, like I said, the chorus was good for an album track chorus, but tied in with the verse being mainly built around that riff that I didn't find very interesting. I kind of felt like when we get into the end of the second chorus, I was starting to switch off a little bit, like, yeah, it's all fine, but nothing great. And considering, like I say, I've perhaps got a little bit of a bias towards being concerned about everything I hear on this album in advance now. The last 3 tracks I've got to hear about it, from it. I think I was starting to go, this is not going to be a great one. And especially, actually, there's another point. This is an album where we've already heard 5 tracks and we've basically been listening to the singles. So more of the tracks on this album are singles than not. So when you think of it as an album track, that actually makes it almost like a rare a vote of no faith from the record company in this song. But that bridge, like I say, I'll stop waffling and getting to the point here, which is that the bridge kind of rescued it in that the way it suddenly changed up to, we've mentioned this before, what they call those tripleted beats, where it sort of goes from being 1, 2, 3, 4 to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You still got your 4 beats in a bar thing, but now you're separating each beat into like a quick little 3 triplet things. They did that brilliantly in the bridge, which suddenly changed up the whole feel. It went really rock. The riff, kind of the way the riff's being played in the bridge, was suddenly much more interesting than the riff we were getting for the rest of the time. And then the way that went down into a sort of, the solo continued as everything broke into more of a sustained playing underneath it, and then went back in. This is what I've been saying about solos for a long time. There are many ways to make a solo work. It can be a solo that is almost like orchestration that really changes the whole feel of the song. It can be a solo that moves, as often they do, often in the bridge, it blasts you into the last chorus. Or it can be something like this, where simply it's just that it is so musically interesting. The solo can't just be guitar twiddling, it's got to be paired with a backing that really works with it. And often the solos I find most boring are the ones where the backing just continues doing what it was doing anyway, but the guitar just replaces the vocal, and then you're like, well, you might as well have just had another verse then. This was a case of where they really switched it up and the solo worked with the backing, was brilliant. So yeah, at that point it got better, and then the last chorus, I loved how they did that thing where they changed the chord pattern underneath and had it sort of drive up, build up more. I'm sure it doesn't matter if you're a music writer or not, you could feel that, you could understand, you could see what was going on in the song at that point, and it just kind of clicked. Everything clicked at that point, and the song started to come together. And when it went back into the riff at the end, I was kind of thinking, oh, here's that riff again. But then it didn't feel like a disappointment, because we'd been shot into that riff, and suddenly it had the energy of that bridge and that last chorus injected into it. We were being thrown into it. It didn't sort of support its own weight when it was at the beginning of the song and it was how you were being introduced to the song. But at the end of the song, as a way of playing out that riff, I think, to be honest, after that ending, any riff would have been okay. But that was a good way to end the song. So yeah, as a general, I'm not unimpressed at all. I can't really see why it would go any lower on the chance of being a single rankings than any of the other songs on this album in particular. Like I said, I don't have a huge downer on this album. It's just because for the band, I set their bar so high based on what I've heard, that just realising that some of the songs that I haven't been my favourites by BAND-MAID are all kind of on this album, and this album had a 6-month turnover and 6 or 7 month turnover, and it just kind of makes me think, interesting, where did the decision making come on a lot of this? I think the only reason this wasn't a single was just because the chorus was not particularly standout. It was, like I said, it was good enough, but it was one of those album track style choruses that you don't go, that's going to get stuck in my head for days and days. You just think, oh, I can sing along for that while it's on, and then switch it off when it's gone. But then again, that's exactly what I'd say about the Non-Fiction Days. I know that's a popular song, but even though it's at the beginning of this album, it's one of my least favourite, if not probably my least favourite BAND-MAID song. I just kind of find that one relatively bland. So yeah, interesting, really interesting. Can't wait. We're going to skip across now to the next song. I think we're going straight on to track 4 now. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, you know about all our social medias, and the most important thing on this channel is about the comments. Feel free to like and subscribe. We really appreciate that. And apparently there's a bell thing you can click now. I'm not that social media savvy when it comes to all the YouTube developments, but they keep on changing the algorithm. So if you can press the bell or whatever the latest thing is, really appreciate that. Get involved in the comments. Give us your suggestions. If you really want to make sure the suggestions get through to us, the Reddit is the best place. It's all in the links in the description below. And of course, if you're not watching this as part of the playlist for the listen through of this album, in the description below as well, there'll be a link to listen to all of our reviews of all of the tracks of this album, even the ones that have been recorded before. So thank you so much as always for tuning in. And for now, from Japan, ciao, ciao.